everyone to the Punk Rock Horror Podcast. There's lights, there's fame, there's horror movies and blood and guts and everything you want to see.
You know what's really sad?
What?
I totally made us a theme to made our own lyrics to Scream for this podcast.
Yeah.
And every time we start recording, I just forget all of them. Like I sing it to myself at work all week, getting super excited to sing it for the podcast, and then I just fucking forget about it.
Like you prepped for it for dude,
Eminem
and 8 Mile, just in the bathroom.
Like honestly, no, for serious. Like I've been prepping this for like a month now, and then I keep forgetting. And then you come out here and start singing the intro. I'm like, son of a bitch!
That was my chance.
I forgot the words.
Why? Why, world? Why must I be cursed?
Why does this keep happening to me?
Come on, B-Rabbit.
No.
I mean, you're the one coming out prepared for it.
Why you call me B-Rabbit?
Because, I mean, to be fair, you're the whiter one. You are?
What do you mean by that?
We know.
What are you getting
I'm just saying.
Sir?
You also have the blue eyes, just like Marshall Mathers does.
You don't have to make this a racist thing.
I'm complimenting you, comparing you to Eminem.
Uh-huh.
Well, who would you rather be? Would you rather be, Stitches or Eminem? So there you go. That's why with that.
I don't know, that brick in your face might say it different. Oh my god.
When I got my haircut, I was talking to the stylist, and I don't know how it came up, but SoundCloud rappers did come up, and so I told her that my favorite thing to do is when Lauren's getting on my nerves or I really want to annoy her in a long drive, I put on Stitches. And she's the stylist started laughing her ass off, and I could see Lauren from a distance. She heard me and she got so mad. It was great. It was a good time.
Oh my god. Was it just as mad as when you're like, baby, what cuckoo?
It wasn't that bad, but that was fucking funny.
Oh, that was so great for WrestleMania.
Who would have thought that I was going to be the one to do that? Because I told you should do that originally.
I know.
Lauren was expecting to be all sweet. She's like, all right, me and Dev are gonna go now. I'm like, come here, I want to kiss you too. Give her the eyes, put on the whole facade of being suave and everything.
And you're like,
and then she gets 3, 2, 1. Baby, what is goo goo? And she got so mad, and it was so funny.
I've never seen Lauren move so fast across the room.
Well, and no one. What made it perfect is that no one saw that coming. And I was just so excited for myself.
I kind of saw it coming because you told me that I should try and do it to Dev. I was like, Matt's gonna do that tonight. At some point.
He's gonna do it at some point. I know he's going to.
I kind of thought you would do it before you would head back down. Baby one goo goo. So for all your listeners out there, I totally think you should do that to your significant other and tell us what happens.
Yeah, videotape it. Send it into us. We'll put it on our Facebook and our Twitter. Oh my god, that would be
so good.
You just gotta make them think that it's gonna be like.
You know what? What's more punk rock than at the very last second tricking your significant other into baby one goo goo instead of being sweet.
# baby trick.
Oh my god.
Or what's a better one? The baby switcheroo. No. That probably would be confusing. And
yeah, that would be very... What do you mean # baby switcheroo? You like to swap babies?
What I like to do in my off time is to go to local hospitals and to their nursery and trade the babies out.
You're going to go home with this parent and you're going to come home with this parent.
Ruining lives together.
Why does this look like my Uncle George?
You got us.
Speaking of switching babies, that actually kind of leads into our thing because that was considered an urban legend for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
First off, we do have to make an apology. We don't have a listener participation corner this week. Due to the fact that today is a great day, so obviously we're going to be talking about urban legends. But we had the amazing actor-director Eric Myers come on do an interview with us to talk about his film Butterfly Kisses, which inspired to do Urban Legends this week.
Yeah, so the last half of today's episode is actually going to be all dedicated to that interview. So that's why we're not doing most of our normal Monday shtick except for talking about Baby Goo Goo.
But honestly, though, that interview was badass. That was actually really fun. Like,
yeah, we had a great time. It seemed like he had a great time.
Yeah,
so
we got into like a full-on conversation about the existence of Loch Ness Monster.
Okay, don't spoil everything. They're going to hear it in like 20, 25 minutes.
But still, it was just happy because a guest has never done that with us.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's funny because when I thought like Dan Connor or like Drew Edwards was on here, that they would be the ones, or even like Patricia would be. So one of them would have been the ones that.
What was his name? David, who sat in with us on the Mermaids.
Yeah.
Way back in October.
Yeah.
He did that a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's
he's a
true.
cool guy.
I was just saying more so like Drew and Dan.
Because our
comic
interviewees.
books.
Yeah.
Well, and they do comic books, and I figured with that inspiration of fantastical fiction, like.
Well, I mean, to give like Dan and Drew credit though, they like gave us some really good insight. Those were fun interviews.
Yeah. We need to get back him on.
I know. I'd like to get Dan back on. We haven't talked to him in a long while.
Agreed. Him and Patricia.
Especially with all the stuff happening with his Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff. I've been seeing all of his stuff pop up on my Facebook feed.
Yeah.
And like, you know, he's drawn some new variant.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
I've
like seen it too.
Like,
yeah.
It's insane. That dude's awesome. Like,
that's exciting. I'm really excited for him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
And Patricia, man.
Yeah, and with Drew Edwards too. Like, he's getting like Halloween Man's now blowing up more. Lucy Chaplin's getting her own story.
I've been seeing Drew's and oh man, I feel really bad forgetting the other guy's name that we interviewed with Drew.
Dan Price, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was Dan Price. I've been seeing his artwork up on Instagram.
Yeah.
He's doing really good job. They're really, really good. And I've been seeing a lot about Halloween Man on Instagram, and like I'm really excited for that comic.
Yeah.
Those guys, I'm really excited for those guys.
Yeah, and there's some pretty good cosplays of it too.
Yeah.
Of him too, yeah. Also, last quick thing I want to throw out there. So, kind of a awesome thing that happened is an old like high school friend that I knew that were cool on Facebook. His name's Devin. I won't give away his last name for obvious reasons. He reached out to me like this past week, and he's just like, "Hey, listen to your podcast. It's really good. Keep up the great work."
Cool.
And it's really like, well, he said it's very entertaining, but even better, like that was just like really nice to get because like he actually sent it on a day that I was just not having a good day at work at all, and he actually picked up my day. That was just really nice, and I told him that I'd give him a shout out on here. He's on Twitch. He has his own streaming channel. So, and I told him to give him a shout out. Check him out. He's Red the Nemesis 777. You know, he's an awesome dude. Check him out. He actually has like a really good skill too with like Call of Duty, and it impresses me.
Nice.
But anyways, yeah. So let's talk about some things happening in horror real quick.
I mean, to be fair, most people have better skill than us at Call of Duty.
Yeah, but you got to see how he plays, man.
I know,
like,
I'm just saying.
But Devin definitely takes it to another level. Check him out again. Red the Nemesis 777.
I was like coattailing off of Austin's success in Call of Duty.
Yeah,
I always hated playing without him. I'd have fun playing by myself because I can hold my own fairly decently.
If it helps
when I play with Austin, I'm just like more than I would say 6 out of 10 times we won the match just because Austin's like getting 30 kills and I'm like, how do you do this? She's like, I don't know, man. I'm just in the zone.
That would be something he says. Hey, if it makes you feel better, I feel confident when we're playing.
Thank you.
I feel confident when you're playing.
Thank you.
Lauren,
it's mostly because every now and then we want to go on game chat and just start saying the most obnoxious stuff.
Oh God, I have like a whole list of them.
I know. All right. Okay. Urban legends. Focus.
So, do we want to mention any of this before we go forward, or?
Honestly, I think just because we're a little crunched for time.
Well, because one of them has to do with Hollow Man. I was just gonna let you.
Fine.
I was just gonna bring up that Elizabeth Moss, like, officially signs on to be in the Hollow Man.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, and I thought that was just something really cool, and that the Bloodborne is getting its own like D&D style game.
Fucking cool! Another Dark Souls like game. Get another board game.
Like Bloodborne is easier than Dark Souls.
I do enjoy Bloodborne. You know what's sad? I really want to play Sekiro.
Yeah,
I really want to play that game, and all I've been hearing is like, it's hard. Not as hard as Dark Souls, but it's hard. I'm like, you know what? Once I hear that,
yeah,
I'm gonna play it.
Yeah, I want to check it out too, just because I've always wanted to check out the Chenchu series, and I know that was like an inspiration.
Yeah, that was a huge inspiration for it.
So, with all that aside,
actually, funny enough, was talking about Bloodborne. That still leads back into urban legends. Because a good amount of H.P. Lovecraft stuff has built up urban legends and everything, or people made their own urban legends based off H.P. Lovecraft. Slender Man! I was not trying to be subtle.
About what?
Anyway. I'm sure most of you listeners and everything know what an urban legend is, but I'm going to just give a quick what an urban legend is. A quick thing. I'm having a brain fart right now. An urban legend, urban myth, urban tale, or contemporary legend is a modern genre of folklore. It usually consists of fictional stories, often presented as true, with macabre or humorous elements, rooted in local popular culture. These legends can be used for entertainment purposes, as well as semi-serious explanation for random events, such as disappearances and strange objects. Urban legends are spread by any media, including newspapers, email, and social media. Some urban legends have passed through the years with only minor changes to suit regional variations. More recent legends tend to reflect modern circumstances, like the story of people ambushed and oh no,
we lost the notes.
What just happened?
We don't know. We lost the notes.
My computer's... All right. An urban legend, urban myth, urban tale, or contemporary legend is a modern genre of folklore. It usually consists of fictional stories often presented as true. With macabre, humorous elements rooted in local popular culture, these legends can be used for entertainment purposes as well as semi-serious explanations for random events such as disappearances and strange objects. Urban legends are spread by any media, including newspapers, email, and social media. Some urban legends have passed through the years with only minor changes to suit regional variations. More recent legends tend to reflect modern circumstances, like the story of people ambushed and anesthetized, who awaken minus one kidney. You're knocked out and you wake up with only one kidney, which was supposedly surgically removed for transplants.
It was like, dude, he's got it. He's there.
It was just like, great, we finally found one word that I actually tripped up on.
That's how it feels. That's how that feels, by the way.
Okay, but that is a long word, not a figgy.
I'm just saying. Anyone could have made that mistake.
No.
Yes.
What?
Just...
You know what? Keep telling yourself that.
Urban legends are commonly told and used in folklore and tend to play on the fears and emotions of people. Urban legends are used to contribute to the fears of society, creating anxiety and even adding to the prejudice of society. Urban legends are also referred to as contemporary legends.
See, told you I got that why they scare us.
I believed you.
Boom.
The term urban legend, as used by folklorists, has appeared in print since at least 1968. John Harold Brunvand, professor of English at the University of Utah.
It's pronounced Brunvand.
You ill
Sorry, I just really think that he's like Lord Bottomtooth, and that's actually how he said it's pronounced Brunvand.
English teacher at the University of Utah introduced the term to the general public in a series of popular books published beginning in 1981. Brunvand used his collection of legends, Brunvand, The Vanishing Hitchhiker, American Urban Legends and Their Meanings, 1981. I burped. Sorry.
To make 2 points.
First, legends and folklore do not occur.
So like, no, I want to finish this.
I got it. Don't pull me out just yet, coach. Do not occur exclusively in so-called primitive or traditional societies. And second, that one could learn much about urban and modern culture by studying such tales.
Yeah, so going off of that, that's pretty much what all this is meaning is that most urban legends, urban legends are basically folklore told by word of mouth,
Yeah.
and then they become more urbanized when they're put into cyberspace and everything. Yes, urban legends have been around. I was actually talking to a coworker about it because I was like, holy shit, I thought like this was a cool thing to me. He's like, urban legends have been around a lot longer than the internet has. And I was like, I know. I just said that the more modern ones are told through cyberspace like creepypastas.
But he needs you to know he's better than everyone. That's what he's getting at.
No, he's really a cool guy. He's definitely one of my favorite coworkers. But basically,
Well, now I feel kind of bad.
you should. It was Garrett.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, Garrett. Well, look, man. If you were in my seat, I'm sure you'd made the same mistake. If not, then you know what? You are better. My bad.
So going on with that, many urban legends are framed as complete stories with plot and characters. The compelling appeal of typical urban legend is its elements of mystery, horror, fear, or humor. Often they serve as cautionary tales. Some urban legends are morality tales that depict someone, usually a child, acting in a disagreeable manner only to wind up in trouble, hurt, or dead. Such
Jesus.
as the tale of Baba Yaga or my favorite, Krampus.
Who? I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Fucking quit! Not doing this podcast anymore.
Sorry.
Yeah, like honestly, you can because there's no actual date. There's no real date for Krampus. So he can be considered more of an urban legend and folklore because no one can figure out when Krampus was actually created. Like that's one thing that I always thought was really cool. And so but the reason why they say like cautionary tales to children is and why I use Krampus as an example is because in the Germanic places where Krampus is really, really well known, they use it to scare kids around Christmas time, saying if you are a bad kid,
If you're a dick.
yeah, a dick,
It's Jack.
a dick. If you're a dick of a kid, Krampus is gonna come, put you in a sack, beat you with the thorns of a rose bush, and then eat you. So, don't be a dick.
Don't be a jack.
But yeah. Yeah. As Jan Brunvand points out, antecedent legends, including some of the motifs, themes, and symbolism of these texts, can readily be identified. Cases which may have been at least partially inspired by real events include the death car, traced by Richard Dorson to Michigan of the United States, the solid cement Cadillac, and the possible origin of the Hook, which most people know the Hook as the story of the hook-handed killer.
Yeah.
Where the two kids are
So,
in
like-
there. Like the I think how like it starts off like a girl goes to a gas station.
Right.
And she comes back out and she sees a killer with the hook hand and it's coming after her and he like grazes his hook across the car.
Right.
And then she leaves. But when she gets back home, like, she drives off before he can murder her. And then when she gets out of her car, she sees the hook hand still attached to the car door.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep. And then this is what I think is actually a pretty funny urban legend because not all of them have to be scary. But another urban legend is that fairly recent one is that Coca-Cola developed the drink Fanta to sell in Nazi Germany without public backlash, originated as the actual tale of the German Max Keith, who invented the drink and ran Coca-Cola's operation in Germany during World War II. Fun fact.
First, okay, two things. First one, I literally didn't know this was a thing until just now. Second of all, I now have
That's
this
why
weird.
Fanta was made.
I now have this weird image of like Nazi Germany, of just like a Nazi like. So it's like a Nazi lieutenant going up to a Nazi soldier, and he's like, "So, Friends,
Do you want the Fanta?
How has war been? And then like Brian's just like, it has not been good, sir.
It has not been good. I need a Coke.
And then yeah, the lieutenant's just like,
Well,
I have the perfect thing for you. You want a Fanta?
Fanta.
And then it's like a disco for some reason. And then like they rip off their Nazi clothes, and that's where we got like the purple and like blue and orange like bikinis.
they were actually wearing. Oh, Hans, I didn't know you were so stylish under there.
Like Fanta, don't you Fanta, Fanta.
So.
I can't believe we just made Nazi soldiers lieutenants sexy selling soda.
Oh my god.
Sex sells.
Sex sells. And so one thing about urban legends, I thought this was actually the coolest fact because this totally happened to us when we were kids all the time. So an urban legend doesn't even have to be a widely known thing,
Right.
to be an urban legend. It's just it's a story. And how it starts, though, is the teller of an urban legend may claim it happened to a friend or a friend of a friend. Mm-hmm. So that's actually the biggest deviation of an urban legend between urban legends and folklore. Is because when it comes to folklore, they normally don't say, hey, my buddy over there by chance just, got hit by some guy with a hammer that summoned lightning. We should call him Thor. No, those are folklore told through generations and generations and generations. An urban legend is always told through the eyes of someone else. So, think about it when you were a kid, especially like Bloody Mary, one of the biggest urban legends ever. You always said, I have never been told that someone went and did it. My friend would come up and be like, hey, have you heard the legend of Bloody Mary? And I was like, he'd tell me, and I'm like, holy crap, did you do that? He's like, no. My friend Timmy, who doesn't go here and used to live down the street, but then disappeared all of a sudden, did it. He told me 2 days before he moved.
No reason to ask about any of those points. They're very solid.
Exactly.
Trust me.
Yep. That's where the mythological parts come into play about it, because Bloody Mary is actually the blood queen. Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot her name.
A good way to look at it of the transition from child to adult is when you're a child, you're scared of Bloody Mary. When you're an adult, you're excited to see her.
Mm-hmm. He's like, how's it going, Mary?
You'll get it because she's a drink.
I know, she's bloody.
Yeah.
She's a good hangover cure. And so, becoming an adult, there are more modern urban legends that are actually real. I'm not going to say real, they're realistic.
Right.
So, and that's the ones that scare us, doing the Bloody Mary challenge. I've done that plenty of times. That doesn't scare me.
Right.
It's because, that's, playing on the kids' imaginations. But when it comes to adults, this is one that I legit thought was true. And a lot of my coworkers thought it was true, too, was the lights out rumor. Do you remember that one?
Maybe.
What it's about is that street gang members. This definitely came out about in Colorado back when I was when we were in middle school, because a lot of gangs were migrating to Colorado. Yeah, they were migrating to Colorado. Because I remember the reason why I bring up middle school is because I wasn't allowed to wear baby blue, so I couldn't wear a Nuggets jersey. I couldn't wear. Yeah, dude, it's dead serious. Our school banned baby blue.
No, there's a reason why I'm laughing. It has to do exactly with this exact urban legend too.
Oh yeah.
So I gotta tell you this. So when I was learning to drive, my dad was he was teaching me, and he said I was like. What? No, yeah, we were driving and a car was passing us and it had its lights out, and so my dad said, when you see that, you're supposed to flash your lights and they'll turn the lights back on. It's just the courteous thing to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. And then a few years later, I found out that's a death sentence at this point.
Yeah. So what the actual, just to let you guys give you some context about what the actual urban legend was that street gang, the lights out urban legend was street gang members would drive without headlights until a compassionate motorist responded with the traditional flashing of the headlights.
Yeah.
Where which you're supposed to, it's just to be nice and tell them like, hey, you forgot your headlights on. I've done it a couple times and I've had people do that. It's just being considerate. Until a compassion motor responded with the traditional flashing of headlights, whereupon a prospective new gang member would have to murder the citizen as a requirement of initiation. Facts received at the Nassau County, would-be Florida, where this started. Florida Fire Department was forwarded to police, and from there to all city departments. Just saying, of course, this urban legend would come out of Florida. Most of these are actually Florida or New York urban legends.
Look, to be fair though, to everyone out in Florida, your population doesn't play around. Like I'm not saying like you're the worst, but I am saying you're the most creative.
Yeah, but this urban legend was so popular that even the Minister of Defense for Canada was taken in by this legend. He forwarded an urgent security warning to all Ontario members of Parliament. So, like, you can actually see the effects of urban legends, like how powerful they can be. Like, and it all starts off from a story that you were told a story by a friend who was told another story by a different friend. And so, but like how urban legends have evolved today is that you read about them more as like creepypastas, like the no sleep Russian experiment that turned all the Russians. So what they did is what the urban legend / creepypasta is that they sleep deprived several prisoners in Russia.
Right.
And so then the prisoners went so crazy from the sleep deprivation that one of them they started kind of like changing into these monsters and started killing each other. And the last one alive, he had like sharpened teeth.
Oh yeah, I remember
his
this.
fingers grew out more, and he had more like claw-like hands. And so like, that's what started it. Or I mean, that's not what started it, but like that's how like I had learned that one through the internet. And that's how a lot of urban legends get passed on nowadays. And the thing that sucks about urban legends, as much as I do love them and creepypastas, is that there are some that are so believable, like the Lights Out one, that it actually instills fear in you, especially as an adult when you're like seeing all these and you're trying to research them.
Yeah, I was kind of pissed at my dad for a second there.
Yeah.
It's like, you almost got me killed.
You could have killed me, Dad.
What are you trying to tell me?
Yeah, I mean, but that's also like the most fascinating thing about urban legends, is that like some of them can be told so well just from rewrites by other people, and like not all urban legends is just like if you flash your lights you're gonna die. Then someone added, oh, if you actually flash your lights at someone else you're gonna die, and then like you got to think like where that all started, how that started. But yeah, and so just I just want to give a quick synopsis. Sorry if it sounds like I'm rushing. I'm just trying to make sure we give our interview enough time. But so just to talk about a couple popular urban legends that most people know. There's the red spot, where a girl was bit on the cheek by a spider, and she thought it was just a small spider bite, and she kept itching it, and it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. This was actually in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, the books. Which, super stoked about that movie. I watched the trailer. Oh, I almost...
I've been watching... It's one of the few times I've been watching multiple trailers for a movie.
Yeah. And, but it turned out that the spider actually laid eggs in her cheek, and it burst open, and all the baby spiders, like, started crawling out.
Yeah.
This one, I love this one, because it's still... I'm, like, fairly certain it still hasn't been proven true. But people are still, like, hard bent that this is true, are the alligators in the sewers.
Oh,
like, I think it's been proven true in Florida because alligators just swim up the pipelines.
Yeah.
But the actual urban legend of the alligators in the sewers actually stems from New York, in that people would buy the baby caimans, so you could get a little baby caiman alligator as a pet. Yeah. And because it's in a small environment, it can't grow. They thought it was like, kind of like the whole goldfish thing. Yeah. That I talk about in the interview, and about how the bigger the actually gets. That was kind of the theory of the alligators in the sewers, that the kids wouldn't take care of the baby alligators, so the parents would just flush them down the toilet, and then they'd grow in the sewers. And then everyone knows about Slender Man. That's actually the most recent one. that I know of that was created that a lot of people jumped onto. That was actually created in 2009. Yeah. He's not real. That urban legend has a birth date, unlike most of these.
Yep.
And then...
I know, to be fair, though, I do know his is, like, an inspiration of, like, a German tale, I believe, though.
Slenderman?
Yeah.
I thought it was H.P. Lovecraft.
I could have sworn it's, like, a German tale. I know it's inspired.
I know, we'll have to research it.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then the licked hand, where the girl goes to bed and the dog normally sleeps under her bed.
Yeah, our Anna actually read that one for her first episode.
Boom! So y'all should know about it if you've gotten the Patreon.
Well, no, that one was also
that was the free one.
Yeah.
And then the hook hand, which I went over earlier, and same with Bloody Mary. And so, I mean, there's a lot more urban legends. There's a lot.
I want to, because it's Colorado, I think a good one to end it on is the 3 urban legends I know that you probably know. So probably one of the most popular ones is if you've been out here to Colorado, been to a concert, you'll know what our biggest venue is, Red Rocks. Mm-hmm. So it's not just a venue; it's obviously like an actual place you can hike, walk around, and see. And there's a field there, and it is a very like generously wide open field. So there's an urban legend that if you were in that field at like midnight or 3 a.m.
Between midnight and 3 a.m.
Yeah, you would see a guy on a horse running towards you.
Yeah, I thought it was the headless guy.
Yeah, it's a headless guy on a horse.
Yeah, you see a headless horseman.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember us actually trying to do that urban legend. Do you remember that? It was when I was still dating my ex.
Yeah.
Jess, and so we spent 4 hours trying to find this field. Because it had a name. Like, there was 2 locations we were told.
Yeah.
We spent 4 hours trying to find this fucking place. Good. And we were getting so mad because we were so tired. And then we just started making all kinds of fart and poop jokes just to make sure, like, just to keep our sanity. And then we all finally get home. And I just remember my mom looking at me and going, the fuck were you doing? And I was like, I was trying to find the headless horseman.
Your mom just like... God.
She's just like, go to bed. Go to bed. You're so lucky this was not a school night. I was like, I know.
That's fucking great. You know that happened. Your mom just like, she's like, I love the shit out of him right now. He's such an idiot. But I love the shit out of him.
She's just like, I'm just imagining like my mom were like, man, I didn't even do this stupid shit when I was your age. And there were some stupid things she could have done.
This is Matt's idea, wasn't it? This is his idea, huh?
Well, like, I just remember we did it because, like, I think you were in a bad mood and you just wanted to do something scary.
Right.
Like, you had a really rough week.
Right.
And you're like, I want to go try and find the headless horseman. And I was just sitting there like, yeah, all right.
See, it was fucking Matt's idea.
But yeah,
Oh,
so
God.
because we didn't do our listener participation card, I want to hear some of your guys' favorites urban legends. So like, my favorite urban, like for instance, my favorite urban legend. I mean, I probably said it a couple times throughout the thing, but Krampus is my favorite urban legend / folklore / mythology. So like, that's the one thing I really like about urban legends is that they can either just be made up on the spot and turned into creepypastas, stories, whatnot. They don't even have to be tied to past events or past folklore, but like they're modern day folklore. That's what I really like about them. But it's also I like the fact that they can tie into the past.
Right.
Like Krampus. Like I'm sure his story has evolved. Like his story evolved from being the shadow of Santa or Saint Nicholas. I'm not saying Santa. It's Saint Nicholas, the actual Saint Nicholas. It was his shadow, or it was the left hand of Saint Nicholas. And like in that legend went so far that Krampus actually has his own fucking like 3-day holiday the 3-day holiday is celebrated here, but he has his own day in Germany and they actually celebrate it. And I think that's freaking cool.
Yeah, no, I feel you, man.
What's your favorite one?
Mine is probably the one that inspired and is a movie made up a movie that was made for a movie is Jeepers Creepers.
Oh yeah, the Boogeyman.
Because I guess I respect it because it doesn't really the movie's never scared me, But
No.
I've met so many people that it does terrify. It's terrified my wife. It's terrified our friend Jenna. It's someone else too.
My mom ruined that movie for me for scariness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so because in the movie it plays that old jingle, Jeepers Creepers,
Right.
Where'd you get those peepers? So anytime a really terrifying moment was coming up during that movie, my mom was just sitting there, like, she was getting into the movie. She loved this movie, but she would just sit there, like, I'm guessing to not scare herself. She'd just be like, Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those peepers? And I'm sitting there like, Mom! I'm trying to enjoy the movie.
God damn it!
Stop singing so much.
I love you.
I love you. I'm gonna go try and find the headless horseman. The hell you are.
Oh man, I don't know why our parents put up with this.
I know, but yeah, no. So those are our two favorite urban legends. What's your guys' favorite urban legends? I really want to know because this subject always fascinated me because especially after researching it, because I always liked urban legends and I always kind of figured when I used to think urban legend, like, oh, Bigfoot,
Right.
Bloody Mary, things that happen more in urban areas. It's not, and in reality, an urban legend just means something that's been told recently.
But you
It's
can
just
let
new
us.
folklore. That's what I like about it. It's like we're creating our own folklore, like Slenderman.
Like Slenderman.
Yep.
But you can tell us all about what you think. Tag us in a post on Facebook at punkrockhorrorpodcast or tweet at us on our Twitter at officialprhp or
On Instagram, punkrockhorrorpodcast, #PRHP podcast.
Or you can check out our website, www.punkrockhorrorpodcast.com. We have Punk Rock Horror Podcast merch. It is in the links below in the details. It's the very first one you can see. Go on over, buy yourself a PRHP shirt. Buy yourself
they look sick.
Yeah, if you're following my Instagram or our Twitter or our Facebook, you'll notice that we put a post up on there of your one true only me wearing one.
Yeah.
And Dad.
We'll get pictures. We're actually gonna have our significant others pose for them for the you ladies out there, so you know what they look like for y'all. I'll get up my picture of it. I love it. The shirt's cool.
Yeah.
Megan did a great Megan.
Yep.
Megan did a great job with the design. I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Yeah.
I hope you guys are too. Definitely buy them. Take a picture of them, of you guys in them. We'd love to see you guys do a horror scene with them in it, with the shirts and stuff like that. Send it to us. We'll post it on our website, our Instagram, our Facebook. Send us pictures of you guys wearing the merch.
Yeah, and we
we'd
might
love
just
it.
pick someone and send you a shirt for free on us.
Yeah, we'll pick a random one and let us know what other shirt you want. If you want a double, if you want one of the other ones.
The choices. Anyways, though.
Choice is all you. So we definitely would love to talk more about urban legends, our favorite ones, other really popular ones. But we're really excited for you guys to hear this interview. So that's why we kind of felt a little rush. But so the last half of the episode is going to be our interview. Matt, he can tell you a little bit more about it real fast. Just give him, I guess.
Yeah. So we got the hookup with Erik Myers, director and actor of Butterfly Kisses. Again, who inspired this week's theme of urban legends. Came on to talk about Butterfly Kisses with us, what it's like working on that film, and gave a lot of great insight to what it's like to be an indie film director, some of the hills you'll hit on that road. And we talked about the Loch Ness Monster, we talked about comic books, comic books, and everything. You can kind of imagine. Erik's a punk rocker himself and just a big fan of awesome things like the rest of us.
Yeah, so definitely I'd love everyone to listen to it and enjoy it, and definitely for you for you future film goers who want to get into the film scene. This is a great interview for you guys because he gives some really good insight and really good advice about getting into this industry.
Yep, so let's go ahead and jump to that and check it out.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Enjoy the interview.
Hey everyone, so we are joined with the one and only Erik Myers from Butterfly Kisses. How's it going, Erik?
I am very happy to be the one and only of anything, so I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Perfect.
There could be only one.
Yeah, it'd be weird if we had a Highlander thing going on all of a second. And,
Exactly, there can be only one, so yes.
It would be kind of a letdown, too, because you guys would have to fight over via audio, so...
Totally.
But we would describe the entire fight, like how he did for that Smash Bros. Brawl.
Yeah. Oh my God, the Eric's poking out the eyes of the other Eric.
If you cut off my head in real time, let's talk about it while it's happening, okay?
His head does a triple somersault through the air and into the basket.
Hey, I think 3 times is exceeding expectations, so let's go with it.
Eric, so again, thank you for being here. This is really exciting. We've fallen in love with Butterfly Kisses. It's definitely a unique movie, and our listeners are going to hear all about it in our Friday episode. But today, because it's Monday and we're talking about urban legends, let's talk about not only Butterfly Kisses, but a lot of the inspiration behind this. So, starting off, what has it been like working on this film, and what have your experiences been?
It's been absolutely crazy, but crazy in the best possible way, because I am a huge enthusiast of, folklore and urban legends and various ghost stories and cryptozoology, monsters, all that fun stuff. And that's a huge part of my life and who I am, completely separate from filmmaking. So Butterfly Kisses was a fantastic opportunity for me to be able to sort of go, hey, I want to make a horror movie, but let me take my interest in all of these other things and mash them together and hope that it works. And at this point, it seems to be connecting with people. So, it's a very fortunate thing for me to be able to share my love of both horror and these fringe topics with people in a topic or in a package that's entertainment based.
I mean, that's perfect. I mean, that's kind of why we all love these indie horror flicks, is that you definitely get to see that love and the passion that's brought to these movies and these really unique ideas. And Butterfly Kisses, we see that play out of a man by the name Gavin York, which you are part of the crew who's filming him, putting together this found footage of these college kids who are, or these film students who are putting together material talking about this urban legend, Blinkman, or the Blinking Man, or also Peeping Tom. So let's start there. Why did you choose this urban legend? And was this an actual urban legend, or was this inspired?
No, it's completely invented for the film. The town in which the story takes place is Ellicott City in Maryland, just outside of Baltimore. And it is an environment that has a reputation for being haunted. And by haunted, I mean within the historic district, every historic house and every tavern and every place, every storefront, there are ghost stories all throughout this town. And you see at the beginning of the film, as we're doing sort of man on the street interviews, we're shooting along Main Street, which is, again, the historic district, but also a heavy sort of, destination spot for tourists. So there have been books written all about the region. There are regular ghost tours that take place there as well throughout the year. And for me, it was cool to say, all right, let's take an environment that really has this sort of, real life with finger quotes backstory, and to look at a spot that does not have a specific, historical legend built around it. And in this case, it is this train tunnel, Ilchester Tunnel, that in real life is just a couple miles away from the historic district, and it does have a reputation specifically with teenagers for being haunted, and weird things happen if you go up there late at night. However, there's been no sort of and this was a World War I soldier who died because he was in love with so-and-so, and, he haunts the building. There was no story like that for this specific location. So because the film itself is so meta, I thought, well, let's sort of blend, deeper, if it were, the ideas of fact and fantasy, and take a place that has a real reputation, give it a ghost story, give it a set of rules that, are specific to this film, and see if, people who watch the film, specifically people who are local, say, "Oh, I've heard all the ghost stories of the region, but I didn't hear that specific one. But I know that train tunnel is haunted."
Cool. So is that the story that like got you into urban legends, or like what got you into urban legends and stuff like that? Yeah. Like,
I was a kid, and like all children, I was really into dinosaurs. And a friend of the family gave me a book by Daniel Cohen, who was a very prolific writer, specifically about horror films and sort of the unknown, paranormal, and all those fringe subjects. He was a writer who was very prolific in the 80s, and he wrote a book that was specifically for kids, and it was all about Bigfoot and sea serpents and all of these various sort of subjects. I was about 5 or 6, and again, I was very much into dinosaurs. And when I was given this book, that was given to me because there was a chapter on the Loch Ness Monster, and
Old
the
Nessie.
idea. What's that?
I said Old Nessie.
Old Nessie, exactly. It's like, hey, Eric, you like dinosaurs. Well, there might still be a dinosaur alive and well in Scotland. And I devoured this book, and that was it for me. I kind of stopped caring about dinosaurs and I became obsessed with the idea of various cryptids and various things that sort of stalked the fringe in the corner of the world that is becoming more and more progressively known and understood. There are still sort of shadows on the periphery. And from there, my interest in these subjects just took off. And it's worth noting that while I grew up being obsessed with these sorts of topics, as an adult and as somebody who regularly, contributes, whether it's articles or commentary on various websites or Facebook forums. I'm a regular commentator on the Squaring the Strange podcast from Skeptical Inquiry. I'm really, really into all of these subjects, but it's from the standpoint of skeptical analysis. I love them, but I don't necessarily believe in them. What is the sociological sort of origin of belief systems, specifically monsters and ghosts?
Cool.
Fair enough. And not related to the film, but I have to ask because I believe that Nessie does exist in a way. Do you?
I have been to Loch Ness. I have seen some various weird things on the water. I do not believe there is a Loch Ness Monster for reasons that, would fill the entire episode of this show. But that's totally cool. And it's not for me to say, you're wrong for believing in this. Let me try to prove you right. That's my belief. And you're totally entitled to yours. For me, what's so cool is, why do you believe in it? And, what was the inciting incident that began this legend that has, taken off and essentially become a Scotland franchise?
Oh, well, I want to talk about butterfly kisses, but I definitely want to answer your question because I always get excited when anyone asks me this. So, Loch Ness Monster is probably the only monster that I can make an argument for that might still exist. And here's my reasons why. One, we got a lot of info and a lot of pictures of fish that were supposed to be thought of extinct, found at deep at the bottom of the sea. Probably one of the
Coelacanth
ones. Yep. And the goblin fish. These are all like fish that were thought to be extinct.
And that couple century old shark
in
Iceland.
So here's my idea: is that what if we had the location wrong the entire time, and that Nessie is actually more in a deeper body of ocean water, but it stays under so far beneath the ocean floor that we haven't gotten far enough to actually get visual proof.
Well, I mean, the question is, if the loch is only 24 miles long and a mile wide and a mile and a half at its widest point, and it's freshwater, how could a sea serpent essentially exist in this body of water, which used to be a glacier that was carving out the Great Glen? How did this thing get into the loch? How did it survive? And is it a surface breather? If it's a surface breather, then it should be seen more often. If
I think
it is,
eel.
do you?
I think, yeah, I actually kind of think that it's probably a giant, like, freshwater eel. That probably, like, because it has so, like, it's probably, like, the main predator there, and has so much space for itself to grow. So kind of like, the whole goldfish thing, where you put a goldfish in a tank, and if it's in a big enough tank, it just keeps growing. But if it's in a smaller one, it stops.
So are these sightings that are being reported, are they specifically of an eel, meaning that the photographs that clearly are depicting or are designed to depict a plesiosaur-like animal, are the photographs fake then, and the eyewitness sightings of an eel, the true sightings?
I would go on.
So.
I would go on to say that I think the photos might be faked, and that we do have something similar, but not straight on hardcore exactly looking like a plesiosaurus in the traditional Loch Ness, but maybe something that is in that similar context. And that's what I think, and that's why I think it would have to be deeper within the ocean floor than we've been able to go down to. I mean, there's still speculations of another giant squid being down there, so...
Totally, and I mean, these are fair interpretations, and while I was there, I saw many weird things on the water, and it's an environment that, based on the way that geologically Loch Ness was created, through the carving of these glaciers, and the fact that it's not, a traditional landlocked body of water, it is more of a trench that is filled with water, and that has been stained black because of the peat that's falling down off the high fens during heavy rainfall. The water is, it's the color of coffee. And so you've got this trench that is a wind tunnel, and there are underwater tornadoes and all sorts of crazy things that happen with this water that are natural, that are explainable. But they create mirages on the surface, or they take things, whether they are animals that perhaps we have not identified, as you said, or, floating debris, and magnify them or distort them depending on the time of the year. It's a crazy place, and I saw all sorts of weird things while I was there. And I guess sort of my perspective on it is, are we seeing weird things on the water because there is a monster there, or are we seeing weird things because of expectant attention, and we've been told there's a monster there? So anything that you see is sort of out of the ordinary, specifically in an environment that creates bizarre sorts of aberrations on the surface. Are we seeing weird things and thinking it's a monster because we've been told that there is a monster there?
Right. And honestly, this is so exciting that we're all actually like nerding out about an actual urban legend.
Exactly.
So it fits perfectly with the theme of this week's episodes. But let's bring it back to Butterfly Kisses. So obviously, when it comes to indie projects, and one of the things that I really loved about Butterfly Kisses is that you guys kind of tackle in a short amount of way the problems with making films on an indie budget, and the struggle of that when following Gavin's story. So specifically for the movie Butterfly Kisses, what have been some hills you guys have run into that you had to learn to climb over and get past?
I mean, it was very much Fitzcarraldo throughout making the film. And the previous movie that I made was an indie called Roulette that was released in 2013. And that was really my trial by fire. That was really sort of the busted knuckle indie that I did with absolutely no money. And, the entire cast and crew were either recent film school graduates or people who were still in school, interns who were looking for credit. And that, in a lot of ways, when it came out and, I was trying to tour it to film festivals and I was trying to get attention for it, informed Butterfly Kisses quite a bit. What are the struggles of an adult saying, this is what I would ideally like to do with my life. This is, my passion. I have to have a day job and I have to be able to pay the bills, but I have this dream that I'm trying to chase. And the film comes out in 2013, as I said, and I'm sort of marinating in my mind and going, what is my next project going to be? And when the idea of Butterfly Kisses hit me, which was largely, okay, let's deconstruct found footage as a subgenre of horror, it became clear to me that it was also an opportunity to talk about the various stages of filmmaking and the sort of problems within each. You know, you've got the A story, which features film students and sort of their trials and tribulations. Oh my God, I got to work with a partner. I don't get along with this partner. We don't have the same vision. We have to complete this project, not just for the grade, but we do film festival, and all my peers are going to laugh at me. And then there is the next level, which is Gavin's story, which is I'm almost 40 and I graduated from film school, and what that's gotten me is the opportunity to shoot weddings and, you know, stuff that isn't creatively minded. And I have a kid, I have a mortgage, I have a wife, I have these obligations that are, you know, keeping me from moving to LA and chasing dreams. So what do I do before I hit the point of no return? And I can't become a filmmaker making the next Star Wars the way I always dreamed. And then you've got the third story, which is me playing myself and saying, okay, well, you know, I made a movie. It came out. I'm now making this documentary about this guy named Gavin York, and I have a crew that I have to pay. I have a film that I have to deliver to my investors or to whomever else has some sort of stake in this, and my subject is disappearing and my crew is pissed off at me, and oh my God, what do I do to reel all of this in? These are the sort of real life horror stories for a filmmaker. And you know, I took a lot of my experience in the past and also experience that I saw in the stories of other filmmakers, whether they continued on after film school, whether they sort of dropped off the radar after film school, and mashed them together to create these three sort of archetypes. But, you know, the funny part is, as I'm making the movie, of course, I'm running into all kinds of problems as well that were constantly sort of feeding and informing the narrative as we went.
I mean, you know, it's definitely polarizing to see all the struggles that you guys go through within the film and to see what Gavin goes through. And, you know, you got to kind of wonder what inspirations come to a person's mind to keep pushing forward. So I guess that's the next question that we want to ask is what inspired you? What inspirations did you bring to this besides your past experience working with Roulette? I mean, was there a horror movie that stood out to you when you were a kid that you saw and you're like, I want to be the next guy who makes this type of film? Or what was it that lit that fire for you?
Well, being a child of the 80s and growing up on HBO, early HBO, you know, if there were three horror films that I would say most influenced me, they would be, in no particular order, The Exorcist and An American Werewolf in London and the original Nightmare on Elm Street. These were three films that...
Fantastic movies.
Yeah, I mean, they traumatized me for different reasons on different levels at a very young age. And my parents were, on the one hand, cool enough to say, oh, you know, hey, you're 6 years old and you want to watch, you know, whatever particular movie it is, Friday the 13th, part whatever. Yeah, okay, cool, watch it. But then on the other hand, they would come back and sort of give me a lot of shit for having watched that movie. And, you know, why do you keep watching movies like this? You could be watching something, you know, better, like Zorro the Gay Blade or whatever.
We know those questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you know, hey, here's the latitude to make your own choice, but your choice sucks. And, you know, I mean, they're your parents. No matter what you do, they're going to have a problem with it. And I was somebody who grew up, you know, loving something like A Nightmare on Elm Street, but at the same time loving equally the Universal horror films, so the Hammer films with Peter Cushing and Kristopher Lee, the same way that I loved punk music, but also loved the Beatles. And so I felt that there was a lot to be said for looking at the origins of a subject and then looking at what was happening with it now. Because all art is a social mirror, and each decade sort of reflects through what kind of music we're listening to, what kind of movies are being made, what is happening in the time, and, that is responding to what happened before. So even from an early age, I became this crazy sort of purist, and it's continued to this day where, like if somebody wants to watch the new Avengers movie with me, I'm going to go, well, look, if you watched all 21 movies that lead up to this, then you have to watch all of them in sequential order with me before you and I can watch the new one. And it's been that way since I was a kid, where I was like, I was really into Dracula. So it was a question of going through all of the books I could find in the library and saying, okay, Nosferatu is the original, so I got to watch Nosferatu first. Then I can move to Bela Lugosi. Then I can, et cetera, down the line. And it became this thing where I was a small child kind of educating myself on film history based on what I could find in the library and the video stores, and really wanting to not just be entertained, but understand sequentially how these stories and these narratives evolve over time. And it's kind of reflective in the films that I make now, in that I try to make them as contemporaneous as possible, but I also like to sort of discuss origins, whether that is origins in tropes and genres or origins in people and what leads them down certain roads, specifically with art.
Yeah. No, I'm actually the same way. Like, I have to watch everything in order before I see the new one.
I would say it's a little mean to make them sit through Iron Man 3 and Thor 2, but I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Especially.
I would rather watch Thor 2 than Thor 1, to be very honest with you.
Oh.
And it's more like the comic book. I'm a comic nerd, so, if it's more reflective of what's in the page, then, I'm happier that way.
You're with friends here, and just so you know, I'm also a huge Thor fan. I liked the second one more than I did the first one, but that gets me into arguments that where I lose my cool.
See, for me, I'd rather watch those two like over and over and over again than Captain Marvel.
Ooh,
I don't like it.
He had a huge problem with Captain Marvel.
I'd be interested in hearing what that is. It's funny. That's a very polarizing film. People either love it or they hate it. And I can see the arguments for both.
Well, for me, it's mostly I always hated Carol Danvers, and Captain Marvel's in the comics also. And also the fact that Marvel just shoved her to the front of the line of like, she's the new face of our comic books. And everyone's like, no, we don't like her. Why don't you bring us like another strong female character that we could care about? And they're like, no, it's Carol Danvers. No, it's Carol Danvers.
Are you a comic book reader?
Yes.
Okay, then obviously you've seen the ongoing trend where at this point the floppies, the paper comics that people are only buying when they're collected in trades at this point at Barnes & Noble. But
yeah, I'm much more of a trade collector.
And that makes sense because it's easier for a lot of people rather than, I'm a floppy guy. I like going to the store every Wednesday and going to get my pull box. But, I totally get why a lot of people wait for trades. It's easier. It's less expensive in the long term. But I'm just I'm a nerdy collector ever since I was a little kid. And it's both a good thing and a bad thing to look at what's happening in terms of the trends where you say it used to be that the comic books existed and then Hollywood tried to make adaptations of these stories that they could not properly reproduce because the special effects weren't there. And now that, we can do anything on the big screen, the comics have sort of become to a large degree irrelevant. And the comics themselves now have to sort of alter storylines to follow what's happening in the films. So a character like Captain Marvel is being pushed to the forefront, as you were saying, not because there is a specific sort of relevance within the Marvel universe, but because there is a relevance within the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even then, like if they were going to push her to the front, they did a terrible job with this movie. Like, in my opinion, just because, like, she was so flip-floppy, in my opinion. Like, you know, she goes like, I'm a Cree, but I can 100% relate to every single one of the humans that I just met. And so, like, that was one thing that bugged me. But, I mean, I could go in all day for a long time.
It's a long tunnel to jump down.
And,
Well, if you guys ever want to go down that tunnel in a separate episode, let me know. I'm there.
Oh, yeah,
We'd
sure.
love to. Yeah.
But going back to Butterfly Kisses and all your experience with that, what was actually one of the hardest scenes to film? Because, you know, like almost every director has had one scene that's an issue with their actors or because of equipment or something like that. Like, so what was one of the hardest scenes for you guys to film and why?
I would say probably the hardest scene to do. There were two of them, and it is the death scene for each of the kids within the found footage. And the first kid, Feldman, who is played by Reed Delisle, he had to have this sequence where he's basically doing everything he can to bring himself to turn on the camera for the last shot. And we've developed throughout the storyline that this camera has captured Blinkman on it, and that every time he starts and stops it, Blinkman appears in the clip somewhere and gets one step closer. And he's down to the last couple of starts and stops on this camera. So he's trying to bring himself to go through with it. He desperately needs that final shot so that he can get the close-up of the monster. But he doesn't want the monster to get him. And he's got this hammer, and he's going to, turn on for the last time, get the close-up of Blinkman, and then he's going to destroy the camera before Blinkman can come into reality. And that was a hard sequence to shoot, not so much technically, but because Reed was really doing everything he could to prepare for it, such that he was going without sleep, and he was running on a treadmill to try to, get himself down to a gaunt sort of size and not eating, and really stressing himself out to be as prepared for this sequence as possible. And when you watch the film now, you see sort of a series of jump cuts as he has sort of a closed circuit camera that is filming the room before he goes and turns on the camera the last time, and jump cuts as he's sort of going through the night and, losing his shit more or less. That was like an hour of the camera rolling. And, if you look to the right, you can see a light coming from the kitchen. That's me hiding behind the corner and yelling out all sorts of terrible things to get him to break things and lose his mind, more or less. And that was a really hard thing because I like Reed a lot. He's an awesome guy, but I was doing everything I could to insult him and say terrible things that I didn't mean, but were directorial based to elicit a response. It's like, as a director, and I guess this is the quick answer to your question. It's like, as a director, you want to take care of the people who are working for you and working with you so that the best work can appear on screen. Because if anyone is unhappy with what they did, whether they shot it, whether they did the sound, or whether they appear on camera, if they're unhappy with it, it's your fault. And it's your fault if part of that, as far as I could have. And so you have to push them as hard as you can to get them there. But sometimes the methods that you have to employ, because you have to be a psychologist in a lot of ways, you have to know what a person's breaking point is, every person that's working with you, and how you're going to direct them. When it requires you to sort of abuse a person in a certain way to get that performance, you feel like shit afterwards. You feel terrible about it. I had to say this, or I had to do this, whether it was today or whether it was a period of weeks, to get that person to that point. And, are they going to hate my guts afterwards, or are they going to appreciate what they did on screen and what the critics say about them, what the audiences say about them, because you got them there? It's a tough thing. And yeah, I mean, the other answer I was going to give was, shooting also Rachel Armiger's final scene as Sophia, when she cuts off her eyelids. I had to do certain things with her as well. They weren't quite as abusive as I did with Reed, but it's the same sort of thing. You want to hug the actor while you're filming the sequence and go, I don't mean these bad things I'm saying. I'm talking about your character. I'm not talking about you when I'm off camera. I want to give you a hug and make you feel better. But on the other hand, you go, I can't. I have to let them marinate in whatever agony the character is supposed to have that drives them to do whatever they do.
I guess the quote that fits it best is what Thanos says in Infinity Wars is some of the hardest decisions require some of the greatest wills, and it goes something to the effect like that. And I mean that's commendable that you know what it takes to get that scene, and yet you have all this heart and this care for your actors and the people doing this film, and you're just like, I'm gonna hate saying this mom joke to him, but but I really need this scene.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I guess my variation on the Thanos line was, I'd always say, it fucking sucks today, but film is forever. And that's the important thing that's going on. In my last movie, Roulette, there is a scene in the climax that is probably the most memorable aspect of the film, and it got me in all sorts of trouble with all sorts of film festivals and whatnot. But it's a very, very, very awful and ugly, horrible thing that happens at the very end. And the actress who is enacting this sequence, which is it's essentially an abortion metaphor. The actress, her name is Ali Lukowski, and she does this incredible, incredible job. It's the most memorable scene in the entire film, and it's the thing that people always talk about. And that's what's fantastic about it, is that when people talk about this movie Roulette, they're thinking largely, or they reference almost immediately, the end and what happens during the climax. In order to have gotten to that point, I had to sort of push everybody to be able to film this nasty, awful, horrible thing that occurs. And while we were shooting it, Allie is, she's basically playing this scene by herself, doing something off camera that I don't want to spoil, but it's awful. It's disgusting. It's gross. And she has to play this thing by herself. And because she has to play the scene by herself, I'm right there on the floor beneath the cameraman screaming all sorts of horrible insults at her that were removed in post-production. But it was such that the poor girl, who again denied herself sleep, and when we would cut, would go out into the hallway and would just be shaking and trembling and looking at everybody wanting a hug. I'm going up to the crew and going, don't you fucking speak to her. Don't you give her any words of comfort. In fact, make a point of not looking at her. If you do look at her, sneer at her. I'm just being this horrible, horrible human being. And it worked. And it's the reason why everybody talks about the end of that movie. But I had to be a fucking douchebag in order to be able to get to that point. So it's a tough thing. It's a funny thing. When you go to sleep at night, do you want to say, yes, everybody loved that scene, but everybody hates me? Or, everybody thinks I'm great, but they think my movie sucks.
Did you give her a really big hug after you're done rapping?
No, because we had more scenes to shoot, actually. So I did not. Absolutely not. Come on.
It was a long day at work, basically.
Yeah, ultimately I threw her some devil horns, but I didn't hug it out.
It's true what it says in punk rock. If it's pissing someone off, then maybe you're doing something right?
Exactly. Fuck authority. Come on.
So we're a little bit over the time. Last question we want to throw your way, and then we'll wrap this up. Is so obviously we talked about being an indie film director and getting onto the scene, living this dream and making it work, and you see this in the Butterfly Kisses as well. So what are some words of wisdom or advice you'd want to impart on one of our ghouls and gals who maybe is thinking about getting into film or is currently working their way through film school? What is some advice you would give them?
Every time I go and I speak at a school, which is semi-frequently, I always say the same thing, which is your degree is meaningless in the long term. It's whether you're a filmmaker, whether you're a dancer, whatever your artistic medium is, all your degree means is that you were able to pass the tests and you turned in your projects on time. It doesn't mean that you are an artist with something to say. So it's absolutely vital that while you're at school, you are, getting all of your credits, because that means you are learning information and you are building your toolbox. But ultimately, it's what you do with that toolbox in the end. So make friends. School is all about networking. If you are a director, find the standout cinematographer who is in your department. If you are a sound guy, find the standout composer in your department. Actors, get together. Everybody should be trying to find people they connect with, not just to be able to pass their particular projects and get an A or a B or whatever, but to make standout material that really resonates within your department, that gets you attention, and that fuels your desire to work with those people and find even more people. Because when school ends, if you decide you're going to move to New York, if you decide you're going to go to Atlanta, if you decide you're going to go to LA, that's great, but you are going to be a very tiny, tiny fish in a very large pond, and you might get a job working for Marvel, getting somebody their coffee. But films can be made anywhere now. Independent films can be made anywhere. So find your people, unite with your people, and start making projects that you can show around to film festivals, that you can find distribution for. Get attention. Don't just do anything. Be an entrepreneur and find the people that you want to work with, that you connect with. That's what I did after school. When I made Roulette, that was the whole objective. And it opened doors for me, however big those doors are. Going through the next door leads to the next door, to the next door, to the next door. So find your people, network, and when school ends, that's when school begins.
Well, there you have it, ghouls and gals. Some sage words of advice and wisdom there. Eric, where can everyone check out Butterfly Kisses?
You can find it on DVD, Blu-ray, at all the box stores, Barnes & Noble, Best Buy, Walmart, Target, all of that. It's also on Roku. If you've got Amazon Prime, it's streaming for free. Basically, anywhere you can find a movie, you can find Butterfly Kisses. And my previous film, Roulette, it is also streaming for free on Amazon Prime. So check this stuff out. Hit me up on Twitter. Hit me up on Facebook. Let me know what you think, even if you think it sucks. Check it out. And remember, Amazon and IMDb reviews are incredibly important for independent filmmakers, because that's what pushes the algorithms and lets people find films they wouldn't normally find.
And where can everyone follow you exactly on Twitter and Facebook?
Twitter, I'm at EKMYERS. Also, Butterfly Kisses as BK Movie 2018. On Facebook, it's just Butterfly Kisses Movie and Erik Kristopher Myers with a K in Erik and in Kristopher, because my parents decided they wanted everybody to spell my name wrong.
He needs to be different.
Exactly.
You said fuck authority, right?
Right. They were very punk rock for people who don't like punk rock.
All those links will be in the description below. Ghouls and gals, like always, you can like us and follow us on Facebook and our Twitter at officialprhp.
On Instagram, Punk Rock Horror Podcast, hashtag PRHP podcast.
Correct, and you can also follow me on Instagram at The Undead Matt. And thank you again, Eric, for coming on, for giving us this interview, for talking with us, and for talking about Loch Ness Monster with us, talking about Marvel movies with us. This has been awesome. Thank you, man.
This has been great. If you guys ever want to talk Marvel or the Loch Ness Monster again, you know where to find me.
Definitely. If we're in your part of the woods, or if you're ever down here in Denver, Colorado, Fort Collins, let us know. We'll get a beer. We'll definitely talk more conspiracies and urban legends.
That sounds great. Horsetooth Reservoir is on my hit list, so let's do it.
Nice.
Right on, right on. We're expecting a message from you then.
Awesome.
All right, man. Well, thank you again. And Cody, you want to say anything else?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun and very insightful.
Sweet. It was my pleasure. Really, thank you again for everything you do for independent filmmakers.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Guys, that was great.